Hey everybody, this is the superstar Bill Martell, and right now you're listening to the FTW podcast.
Harrison and Rob, Kevin and Joe, talking about the wrestlers that you know. FTW podcast, FTW podcast, FTW podcast.
You're looking at your screen as if you were trying to figure out a way to continue to play Minecraft while you do the podcast, Scott.
Damn it, how did you know?
It's like Kevin playing Skyrim right now.
Well, I'm doing the same thing, so it's funny you should mention that, actually. I'm, like, trying to figure out how I can...
Look at porn while doing the podcast?
I do that constantly, so it's not that
Skyrim,
hard.
way more important.
Oh, you got caught with the Skyrim bug too, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty much awesome.
Actually, I'm gonna hit the bathroom real quick before we start.
You know, good call. I want to get a refill. I'll be right back.
Alright.
There were two.
Yes, exactly.
Shit, Joe, should we find something to go off for?
Hold on, I'm gonna go get ass. Hold on.
Alright, you're listening to the FTW podcast, recorded live, December 20th, 2011. This is episode number 93, and it's also the first day of Hanukkah, so in celebration, we got rid of Harrison, and instead brought in Scott. Say hello, Scott.
Shalom, bitches.
Joe, say hello, Joe.
Dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay.
Rob, say hello, Rob.
Hey.
And Kevin, say hello, Kevin.
Hanukkah.
I should have something more Jewish than that since, you know.
Latkes.
What?
And I am producer Garvin. I'm filling in for Harrison. Like we said, he's gone. Good riddance. This weekend, of course, was WWE's TLC pay-per-view. We had the honor of opening up Talk Wrestling Radio's nights of pay-per-view coverage, going from 7 p.m. to the beginning of the pay-per-view. Plus, after the show, there was a great conversation in the live chat. So definitely next time there's a pay-per-view, which is actually January 8th, Genesis. Make sure you mark your calendars and join the pre-show, join the chat. It was good times. TWRnetwork.com for more information. Before we begin, let's get some listener questions out of the way. First, Mike Lightning on the Marks Facebook group. He asked, am I the only one pissed that Sheamus is stuck in a squash match purgatory against the mid-carders? Any of you guys pissed about that too?
Yes.
Pissed,
I am.
no. Surprised, a little bit. I'm not... Look, guys have to go through periods where they're not in the main event picture. But, I mean, why do they keep putting him up against Jinder Mahal lately? You know, you don't want him to feud with somebody a little better. Jinder could feud with, I don't know, frickin'
Ted
the
DiBiase.
Dude Busters or something. Yeah, Ted DiBiase, that's perfect. That's the thing that doesn't make sense to me, is why they have him against Jinder Mahal.
Well, they don't have enough faith in Ted DiBiase to actually hold the feud. I think that's why they even have Sheamus there, is to kind of keep that somewhat in mind, but, you know, give DiBiase a little more time to actually grow with the crowd. As far as Sheamus, though, he should be happy he's at least getting these squash matches in the mid-card and not being completely irrelevant.
Yeah, he could be on Superstars. So
Exactly.
This is true.
Christine Cicerelli, she asked, any guesses on who Kane is? Apparently there's a question about that. This was shortly followed by Steve Espinoza's question. So does anyone still think Masked Kane is Taker? Because
No, there's
it's
no
Kane.
tattoos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's Kane.
it's pretty obvious. It's the Kane that was the Kane before, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
no doubt
Yeah,
there.
you notice the lack of tattoos on the arm? That'd be kind of a giveaway. Guys, let's not be retarded.
All right, let's go to Impact. Rob, take us through Impact.
Well, you know, Impact and TNA continued their kind of upward momentum the major down moment of the night is Scott Steiner is still wrestling. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that, because otherwise I have to go into my Scott Steiner impersonation, and that gives me a headache. We've got Jesse Neal was taken out by Gunner. That one I kind of saw coming, made sense. We've talked about on the show a couple of times how Jesse Neal was going back and forth as to whether or not he was going to be with TNA. Apparently it looks like he's leaving TNA because it looks like TNA went ahead and decided to push Gunner removing people via injury gimmick by having him take out Jesse Neal. The tag team tournament was interesting. Samoa Joe and fucking Magnus beating Robbie E. and Douglas Williams. I thought Samoa Joe and Magnus made an interesting team. It's nice that they're making a motion of doing something with Samoa Joe. And, I thought that was pretty cool. And
I agree with that, Rob. For sure. Up to that point, I wasn't sure if I liked this tag team tournament, but after seeing Samoa Joe and Magnus, how well they did, for sure. Well, on one hand, it's great to see Samoa Joe actually do something good for a change, but on the other hand, they look like a really solid team. Yeah.
I mean,
do you think they're the favorites?
I do. Based on what I saw there, I think they have to be the favorites. At first I was a little upset that they split up the British Invasion because Magnus and Williams usually work exceptionally well together. But Samoa Joe and Magnus are making a good team. And then, of course, you have the highlight of the night for me. Both Jarretts were fired. Thank you, God. I marked out. I marked out. I'm like, thank you. Now we might actually have the knockout division be the knockout division. We've got rid of Jeff Jarrett and his ego. The ship is slowly but surely righting its course.
Just back to the tag team tournament, why do you think that they went the direction they did? Instead of pushing the teams that they've already had, they decided to split everyone up and create new teams. Like, why go in that direction instead of just sticking with what they had?
I think it's pushing on the gimmick that they've started with Crimson and Matt Morgan. They threw those guys together at the last minute, and they ended up winning the tag team titles. I think they're just kind of trying to push that gimmick. But, well, let's see if we can do it again. We'll just take two random people and throw them together. Eric Young and ODB. That's got to be the strangest partnering I saw. At first, I thought, okay, nothing is going to be weirder than Robbie E. and Douglas Williams. But then later in the show, they show Eric Young with fucking ODB. And and it's like a train wreck. I'm like, no. But then in the back of your mind, it's like, I need to see them. I need to see them in the ring. I want to see whoever they're taking on.
Yeah, it should be interesting how they're doing that, especially because that throws in, ODB into the intermingle or whatever that's called, tag teams where she's fighting men, which we haven't really seen since China. So it should be really interesting. And
that they can't really do on Spike, because Spike, we've run into this issue before. Spike absolutely refuses to broadcast a man hitting a woman. So that means they either need more females to enter this competition, or whatever male is in against ODB is just going to get squashed and won't get any offense against her.
All right. Talk about the main event. Obviously, where we saw Jeff Hardy versus Bully Ray. Jeff Hardy pushed more into the world title race.
That's really all I have to say. But yeah, he really was. They're continuing to push Hardy into the main title race against Bobby Roode, and I'm not excited at all to see this. I think I've got nothing against Hardy getting, what is this, like his 20th chance? But I think there are other more deserving people. I think storyline wise, TNA had much more interest in Rude and Storm going up against each other for the title. And apparently, Garvin, you and I are the only ones who watched TNA Impact, because my three because the other three people have been silent throughout this whole thing. What are your thoughts?
I never got it. I never got a chance to watch it.
Ah,
I have band practice on Thursday nights. I never get a chance to see it.
okay. Well, you have a legitimate excuse.
That's the sentiment I get from most sane people as they try to avoid TNA. So,
Well, in all fairness, I'm not trying to avoid it. It's just that my band is more important.
Fuck you.
Understandably.
all right. Well, on that note, let's continue to move on. We're actually going to talk about Superstars this show. Despite what we've said before, there was actually something important that happened on Superstars that is worth talking about. But first, just to run quickly down the card. Drew McIntyre defeated Justin Gabriel. Hunico defeated Trent Beretta. Swagger defeated A-Rai. And in the main event, and this is what was important, we saw Primo and Epico defeat Air Boom. Why that's important is because we didn't know why they had the title match at TLC. This was why. And this is why it's becoming more and more important that we actually watch Superstars. There's great matches. They rarely put on a bad match on this show, which is something I've noticed. No one else has noticed because they don't watch. But some good stuff is happening. We also saw a new Hunico. Not as in a new person playing Hunico, but like we've seen in the past. But definitely a different character. Same kind of gangster Mexican guy, but he has a new partner, and they basically have dropped the storyline where he's with the Colognes, which I thought was very surprising, and that's also showing why we haven't seen him on TV in a while. It looks like they're actually going to be building him into another tag team with whoever this mysterious partner is that he had with him, which was good to see. So hopefully that is a push to a stronger...
Garvin, is it Fake Kane? Is that his tag team partner?
No, it's actually...
No? Okay.
I'm not sure who it was. It was another new guy.
You're going to make me watch Superstars tomorrow. Fuck!
Yeah. To be fair, I did fast forward through most of it, but I watched the matches, fast forwarded through the rest of it.
Okay.
But like I said, great matches. We see on Twitter there's always this push where I want wrestling or we want wrestling. Those stupid hashtags that keep getting repeated over and over again. If you want to see quality wrestling, Superstars is it, because that's basically all you're getting. You're not getting a lot of storylines. There's not a lot of segments and whatnot. So, anyways, that's our coverage of Superstars. Joe, take us through SmackDown. This was actually the final show before TLC. The first question is, was it a good build-up?
I think it was a decent build-up, mostly with the main event. Well, I'll go back. I'll go back to the top of the show. Okay, at the top of the show, it started out Josh Matthews interviewing Booker T about his match with Cody Rhodes. Cody interrupts, talks some shit, and then beats Daniel Bryan. I don't like the squashing of Daniel Bryan, but it pushes Cody Rhodes as a strong guy going toward the pay-per-view. So, good for him on that one. Alicia Fox beats Natalya. Okay. We got to see Primo and Epico beat the Usos. Big Show beat Jack Swagger. The filler match, Ted DiBiase beat Heath Slater. Then Jinder Mahal attacks Ted DiBiase, elongating their little background feud, because not a lot of people are paying attention to it, because it's a Superstars-fueled thing. He puts Ted in the camel clutch. Teddy Long comes out, sets up Jinder Mahal against Sheamus. Sheamus squishes him. You hear his brain go pop. And then Randy Orton and Zack Ryder beat Wade Barrett and Dolph Ziggler. That was really the only thing worth watching, in my opinion, was the main event. It seemed like a lot of filler. Like, when you see Big Show versus Jack Swagger, you kind of get the idea that Big Show is going to win. Ted DiBiase versus Heath Slater. Dude, if it was a mop against Heath Slater, I think the mop would win.
Well, I don't know if the main event was the only thing worth watching, though. I really like the tag match that they had, though, between Primo and Epico and the Usos. I mean, it's actually nice of them to really start kind of showing that tag team side again and make tag team wrestling relevant in WWE.
Yeah, until they actually do it, I'm going to say quit teasing our cocks, because we really want to plunge our cocks deep into a tag team division, and it's just not happening.
You would almost say that you want double penetration in the tag team division, right?
Exactly.
Excellent.
Double penetration in the tag team division.
But that goes back to the point where we have to show some patience, and they are showing signs of building a tag division. We have the Usos and Primo and Epico on SmackDown. Superstars, obviously, we saw Primo and Epico versus Airboom. So they are doing things in that direction. We can't just expect a good tag team division now.
No, but
they're really only one real good tag team away from actually having a division. I mean, they got 3 tag teams right now, which are very viable.
I really think you need 6.
Really?
Yeah, because other than that, it's the same 4 tag teams switching off every week.
No.
You can't do a whole lot. This happened in a bowling league I was in. I mean, you either fight team 2, 3, or 4, and you saw the same fucking shit every fucking week.
Yeah, but with 4 teams and you're only spanning it out maybe like 1 tag match a week minus superstars. I mean, you could still mix it up
but you still have to defend the tag team titles
once a month.
Once a month.
How is that still going to repeat the same things though?
So Hart Foundation versus the Rockers, then Hart Foundation versus Demolition, then Hart Foundation versus the Rougeau brothers, and then Hart Foundation against Demolition again. Oh, Demolition won this time. So, okay, now they go through the whole rigmarole of feeding the Rockers and beating the... I mean, it's just...
All right, but keeping that concept in mind, though, I mean, remember back when tag team wrestling was actually awesome in the WWE, we only had like 3 teams. You had the Dudley Boys, you had the Hardys, and Edge and Christian. And that was pretty much
going back. You got to keep going further back for a good tag team division.
Well, even then, I mean, that was some of the more epic tag team matches that the WWE...
Demolition, Hart Foundation, you had the Twin Towers, you had Dino Bravo, and who the fuck was that guy?
You're going way past like the majority of the people's attention span at that point.
I know, but at that point, I'm going back to when they actually had a strong tag team division.
But my point is that you don't need 6 teams to have a strong division. You can do it with 4 teams as long as you keep it interesting. And WWE has always had the chance to do it. They kind of dropped the ball for a while.
They drop the ball every time they try to do it.
Dude, I don't.
That's my opinion.
I completely disagree.
But look,
once you got out of the 80s,
look outside the tag division. There's no title race that has more than 4 people at a time. Like, you rarely see 6 people going for a single title. You have your
right,
2 usual people, your 2 usual veterans, plus like some random guys, and then everyone else.
But at least But at least in those instances, you have a pool to pick from for other people to start filling in roles. With the tag team division, they don't. They would have to hire, and they don't want to hire.
But that's under the assumption that they're not going to mash more teams together if they haven't already thought about something like that. I mean,
but that's the thing. I would love for them to actually have real tag teams again, not 2 singles wrestlers who just don't have shit to do, but 2 guys who actually come in, like the Usos, who come in together and they're a tag team. I mean, looking back at the Hart Foundation, you had 2 guys who were together for a very long time, and that's what they were. They were tag team wrestlers.
So what you're saying is TNA is doing this wrong, then?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, TNA does everything wrong, but no, TNA needs to put a little more emphasis on the right syllables to develop their tag team division. I mean, with the entire, I'm not thrilled with the Crimson Matt Morgan thing, because they're both singles wrestlers being meshed together because they were feuding, and now they're a tag team, and now granted they're doing well, but I just want to see more guys like Generation Me. They came in, they rocked it out as a tag team.
I got fired.
I want to see
as a tag team.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I miss the days where a tag team came in and they were together, and that was basically.
Oh,
I don't
think there's. I'm not disagreeing
what
with
Joe's
that.
saying, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think teams like the Motor City Machine Guns, Generation Me, Beer Money, Dudley Boys. I think teams like that are always going to be better than, hell, even the British Invasion. I mean, Brutus, are Douglas Williams and Magnus. Those teams are always going to be better than just two guys from the roster picked at random and said, all right, get out there and act like a tag team. But on rare occasions, you can have two guys paired up randomly and it can still work. So we'll see what the WWE decides to do and if they have the patience to continue trying to develop any real kind of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole random pairing thing does work. I mean, if you want to bring up the Hart Foundation, I mean, how many members did Bret Hart go through during that whole time? I mean, he had...
Through like half the roster?
Yeah, he had Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and then he had the British Bulldog, which were the two most notable partners. But, I mean, even then, those were somewhat mashups, and they worked out perfectly fine.
But those didn't happen until much later. Those were like early to mid-90s.
But you get my point, though? I mean, they were still a notable tag team, and it was a mashup.
That was later on.
But later on or not, it doesn't matter. It's still a mashup.
I don't like it. It's my preference, fucker.
You're entitled to it.
Again, we just need to show some patience because they are moving in a good direction.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'll believe it when I see it.
Sure.
I really want them to do it, but they've let me down so many times,
I agree.
I can't keep going back in that relationship if I'm just going to keep getting stepped on. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think you're that type of girl. All right, let's talk about TLC. First match of the night, United States Championship match. Dolph Ziggler defended against Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder finally won. The IWC's man that they've been pushing from YouTube to now finally getting his opportunity to show what he can do. Did he show some good stuff to you guys?
I thought he did really well. I mean, there's always room for improvement. I mean, Ziggler is on top of his game. There's almost nobody better than Ziggler right now in WWE. So it's hard to kind of compare the two, but I think they sold a solid match. They did really well, and it's good to see Zack finally get the title.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a great match. It was a great opener. I mean, in the pre-show, which was Harrison, myself, and Rob, we all were under the impression that they were going to start off with the Big Show and Mark Henry match. That's what was being reported. I'm glad they made the decision they did and put Ziggler versus Ryder. It was a great match. It definitely got the crowd involved. And it was a good sign of what was to come. Speaking of what was to come, Air Boom versus Epico and Primo. This was a unannounced match. It was unscheduled, and just kind of happened. If you didn't watch Superstars, like everyone did not watch Superstars, you would have no idea what this was about. Obviously, Epico and Primo won the right to face Air Boom. What did you guys think of the match?
I think Air Boom versus Epico and Primo was a good match. They had a lot of good back and forth. It was an interesting match to come off of from the United States Championship match because I felt after the tag team match that the card kind of slowed down for quite a while. But no, I think they did a good job, and it's good to see Epico and Primo getting some work.
Well, yeah,
pay-per-view work.
It's really good to see Epico and Primo definitely getting in there again as a tag team and rocking it out. And it's also kind of nice to see Evan Bourne be able to kind of hit his spots too. And I thought they really did put a very, very good match together.
And this was the first real match that Evan Bourne has had since he came back from his suspension. And he didn't look like he had any type of ring rust. It was a very good match as well. I think back-to-back matches, this was probably one of the best openers we've seen this year. Following that was a tables match, Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett. Again, we saw Wade Barrett lose. This was something that we didn't want to see. I think for the most part, no one wanted to see this except for some random fans who liked Randy Orton. But do you think it was the right decision to put Orton over Barrett?
No,
it probably had
not at all.
I think the WWE is. I look at Wade Barrett and I see we mentioned this on the pre-show that, there was a fear of Wade Barrett becoming the next William Regal. I kind of see him already as like William Regal 2.0 in the view of what he can do in the ring. He's very solid. He's got good skills, got good technical wrestling ability, but I think the WWE is showing too many glimpses that they're going to do with Wade Barrett what they did with William Regal. Bury him in the mid-card and pull him out when they go to England and say, oh, we have a British wrestler, and we'll let him win.
Why? Why would you push a guy so hard just to have Randy Orton laugh off his offense, basically not even really sell it, and boom, RKO done?
Yeah.
That's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. I mean,
because it's Orton, and we should have expected this eventually.
I'm
not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying we should have.
No,
Kevin's
I completely
got a
understand.
point. Orton is like John Cena. He's Superman.
Just stupid.
Let's not bring up John Cena. He wasn't in this show, and therefore we can ignore him for this pay-per-view at least.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, I agree. I thought for sure we would see a Wade Barrett win, but maybe they're going in a direction that will lead somewhere positive for him, because he really has picked up his game the last few months for sure. So next up was the Divas Championship match, another unannounced match. Beth Phoenix defended successfully against Kelly Kelly. Thank God. Let's move on. Next was the Sledgehammer Ladder match. Triple H versus Kevin Nash, the story that we've all wanted to see some type of conclusion on. Were you happy with how things turned out?
Kevin Nash should have did a promo afterwards that told Triple H, I was a wrestler like you once, until I blew out my knee.
Speaking of blowing out knees, no one got injured. I think that was the biggest surprise of this match.
Yeah, no, it was a very slow-paced match, though. It was just painful to watch.
My question is, why do you come out with the story afterwards that Nash is now out for 6 weeks or whatever? I mean...
Because they're going to bring him back to feud with Santino, probably. I don't know.
Just go away, Nash.
Yeah, possibly we'll see him back, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Also, another unannounced match, Sheamus defeated Jack Swagger. Pretty quick match. I think it was maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was a big old squash match. I wasn't surprised, though. That's the thing. I mean, with an impromptu match like that they set up on the card, it's tough.
It's filler is what it is.
Yeah, and there definitely was no energy between them. There was no energy with the fans. But, like you said, Joe, after the tag team match, every match after that was pretty slow, including the World Heavyweight Championship, the chairs match, Mark Henry versus Big Show. We finally saw Big Show win the championship after his 9-year drought, only to lose it 45 seconds later when Daniel Bryan cashed in. This was Connor's
what
prediction.
The hell, man?
Yeah, this was Connor's prediction that we talked about last week. Definitely good to see. I'm glad they finally fulfilled it, and Teddy Long didn't ruin it this time.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, see, but I'm glad Daniel Bryan cashed in. I really am. I think it'll be really cool to see what, the super nerd does with the World Heavyweight Championship. But at the same point in time, Garvin, like you said, Big Show breaks his 9-year drought, finally gets the championship, only to lose it 45 seconds later. I thought that was pretty crappy, but it will be interesting to see how the WWE responds with this, like if they're going to push some kind of feud between Big Show and Daniel Bryan. But
that definitely seems imminent.
Props to Connor for predicting it. I mean, he called this literally right on the button.
Yeah, the show was pretty dead up to this point. Then when he cashed in, that was like the energy that the entire show needed.
Yeah, I mean,
good to have.
Yeah, they drove right into the ground until that point.
Here's an interesting question then for us. do you think this was planned, or do you think this was something made on the spot? Like,
well, let's
officials see.
Let's hold off this conversation a little bit later on in the show. We do have a topic that will cover this.
Okay.
All right. Next up was the Intercontinental Championship match, Cody Rhodes versus Booker T. They basically had Cody Rhodes attack Booker T, I think 3 times during segments. Once Booker T was coming down and Cody attacked him, so it was almost as if they weren't actually going to do this match. But it was interesting that they pushed this as Booker T's last match, and then had Cody Rhodes basically take him out beforehand just to win. Do you think that was an odd way to do it? Like, are you?
Here, I think this is an ego thing for Booker, because they wanted Cody to show up to be strong. You know, they wanted him to come out on top pretty clearly, instead of a back and forth like, oh my God, Booker. You know, Booker T wanted to have a reason for him to not make it a pretty even match. Booker's going to be strong. That way, Booker's character is still strong for his last match. You know, it took 3 rounds of attacks and a match to put him down.
Yeah, which leads us to the question, which Christine on the Mark's Facebook page asked, you know, is this really Booker T's last match? Or are they building to a rematch at, say, Royal Rumble?
No, he'll come back. He'll do another match.
I agree.
Tell me he did not just say that.
All right, well, let's move on to the main event. CM Punk defended against The Miz, Alberto Del Rio. We all were pretty, unanimous saying that CM Punk was going to win. The entire blog genre industry type thing, they all said Punk. JR even predicted Punk was going to win. So now that we know that he won, do you think it should have been as predictable?
Yes, you can't have him drop the title this soon. Not when he's super face at this point. Just doesn't work.
Yeah, he's just way too over.
To give him credibility, they need him to have a run for a while. He's the next Cena. He's going to be the next major face of the company.
Not to mention the fact, though, that like with the other 2 guys, I don't think that they could truly hold the title at this point in time. Like The Miz, he needs to gain a little more popularity again before he can really hold the title. That whole tag team, The Awesome Truth, kind of set him down a little bit from what it seemed to me. And like Alberto Del Rio, he always starts off strong, but he always just flops towards like the middle of his reign. So CM Punk just seems like the wiser choice to keep the title on at this point.
All right, well, let's move on to Raw. Scott, take us to Raw.
Well, this was truly the opening that the IWC would either appreciate or hate the hell out of because it doesn't make much sense. But the CM Punk comes out, introduces himself in a kind of a hokey little "who won last night's pay-per-view" type of thing, and it was actually very well done, except for the fact that he forgot the state that Philadelphia was in, which I found interesting. But he gets out there, he introduces Zack Ryder, Daniel Bryan comes out, and it becomes like a big face orgy about how this is the ultimate new faces of wrestling, and these are the guys that should be holding the title. And it was really awesome actually to see it. It was pretty well done. Miz, Alberto, Dolph Ziggler, they all come down. Turns into a 3-on-3 tag match later on. John Laurinaitis, though, I swear, I hate listening to him. I really do. I would even pay to see Vince McMahon come back. I will give WWE money out of my own pocket to see Vince McMahon do the promos that John Laurinaitis is doing, because I just cannot stand that voice. But anywho, moving on. Randy Orton and Barrett have a rematch. Why? I mean, Wade Barrett looked strong, and it was great to see, but honestly, to end it by DQ when clearly Wade Barrett should have at least gotten over on him since Orton won the pay-per-view match, it just didn't make sense to me even why to have the match other than to extend the feud.
Well, plus his DQ was because of an eye poke, and when was the last time they called a DQ on an eye poke? I mean, think of every wrestler that has used that in their regular repertoire. Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Jesus.
The last time that
point.
happened,
Pull a
somebody
chair.
won with.
Pull a chair
last-
or something.
Yeah, seriously.
The last time that happened, somebody won with a sleeper hold.
Well, the last time I can actually think of a notable eye poke was Roddy Piper, and that should tell you something.
Master of the sleeper hold.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It all comes full circle. So Alicia Fox beat Beth Phoenix. Why? It's just total botch fest. Just please, God, take her out. Get rid of her.
Yeah, this was an awful match. One thing to note, though, this is the exact same way that they were pushing Kelly Kelly in April, like right before she won her first title. So, do you think that they are trying to build Alicia Fox as a possible champion? Like,
well, they've been doing that for a couple weeks now, and I just don't understand why. I mean, outside of the botches, she's not as bad as like Kelly Kelly per se, but I don't think that she's champion material at this point in time. I mean, especially if she's botching so bad that there's photos on the internet of Beth Phoenix's aftermath. I mean, that's not good. So I really hope that they look at what happened on Monday and kind of decide, okay, you need some more time, sweetie. Let's move you to the back.
yeah,
So-
and it's kind of strange that she's defeated Natalya on SmackDown in under like 3 or 4 minutes. The same thing with Beth. You know, they at one point were pushing Beth and Natalya as like these
The
devastating
divas. Yeah, the divas of destruction, basically.
There's just no rhyme or reason of why they're going the route they are. But
Didn't Alicia Fox win a Divas Championship once?
She was
Yes.
champion.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, she was a champion when she was a heel, and
Really?
that title reign I think only lasted about a month, and I think she actually lost the title. Oh God, I can't remember to who. I think it was
Wasn't
Melina.
I would say Melina or Eve or something.
Yeah, I think it was Melina.
You know, the one thing I saw, I mean, I've brought this up countless times on the show, but, you know, her finishing move is the axe kick. She went for the axe kick one time, I think, on Kelly Kelly, but instead of laying, you know, the back of the knee to her head, what she did is she hit, like, the back of her thigh,
Mm-hmm.
and her knee bent backwards,
Oh,
and when she
right.
dropped and just basically scissored Kelly's neck. And I was really happy because I expected Kelly's head to pop off and roll away.
like a Barbie.
Exactly. Like, but when that happened, I'm like, oh, that would be the sweetest fucking move. And no, she just does the fucking X kick.
Yeah.
Best botch ever, though, I swear.
Yeah.
all right, so we saw Sheamus versus Jinder Mahal again.
Again.
We don't need to get into it. It's we have no idea why they're doing this. It doesn't make sense. But let's move forward. John
let's go
Cena and Kane, that segment.
Yes, I definitely want to talk about this because, first off, I'm happy about this on two different reasons. One, honestly, I don't want to see Kane get involved with Mark Henry again. It's boring. Don't worry about it. Two, this puts John Cena in a storyline where the title is not involved.
I completely
Thank
agree.
fucking God.
Yes, and it's a good idea on both ends to get him out of the title picture, but still keep him in a major feud with
yeah.
somebody who needs to get going again. This is the perfect way to do it. I think the WWE's gotten the message. We've been talking about this for several weeks now. I'm exactly with you, Scott, because I think this is the right move. And man, did I freaking mark out when that explosion happened. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
they're talking, boom. I'm like, oh, let's do this.
Yeah, they're putting a nice, creepy spin back on Kane, which is something they've really lacked for a very long time.
Yeah. Agreed.
But we are talking about the booking perspective. What about the storyline perspective? How does this feud make sense, knowing what we know about both of these guys?
I think they're working on that.
Yeah, I think at this point in time...
I think that has to do something with the ripped off shirt.
Yeah, I think... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, you're right. Sorry.
Well, no, what I was going to say is I think that's kind of adding to it. The mysticism as to why Kane is going after John Cena is actually what makes it interesting, not necessarily kind of go, huh?
Agreed.
I like the fact that right now there really is no rhyme or reason. It kind of brings back the big red machine persona where basically it was fucking Kane. Are you really going to walk up to him and ask?
Exactly. And there's some guys you can do that with, and he's one. I mean, you know, Kane just wrecked face. He didn't need a reason.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
and Scott, I'm with you. You're exactly right.
yeah. So I'm definitely liking this, and I can't wait. It's one of those things I really can't wait to see next week to what they're going to do with this.
After being, I mean, I've been a Kane fan for years. Even when they're, he's in a lull. I've always wanted him to win. I always want to see him do more. I'm glad they're kind of going back to the old school roots. I can't wait for this. I mean, if they're booking him that he's going after John Cena just because John Cena's like the golden boy, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he walked off with Cena's shirt, so maybe it's, he's...
I think he kind of sniffed it a little bit, too.
Maybe he's taking prizes for some burning fire gonad ritual. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the main event. We saw the three new the two new champions at CM Punk. They all walked in through the crowd. Just take us through that match and basically everything that they built up with it.
Well, the intro was definitely really awesome. How they walked through the crowd. It kind of had kind of an ECW feel to it. That just, we're the fans champions. We're gonna be with the fans as we're coming out. It was really nice to see that. The match was pretty well done. I felt like the ending seemed a little bit forced, where they kind of did their finishers and that much, but ultimately it looked good, and it was a fantastic match between the guys. It really showed that all of them can work a match. It's very cool. God, I can't think of anything else to really say beyond that.
All right, well, let's move on to news then. For the news this week, according to reports, Mark Henry was injured during his match against John Cena last week on Raw. So that kind of explains why they might have booked the way that they did. He obviously lost the Big Show. The original plan, according to the dirt sheets, was that he was going to retain and continue to hold the title. Obviously, that didn't happen. Last minute scramble. They put in Bryan. Do you think that what we saw at TLC was the right decision by putting the title on Daniel Bryan?
Absolutely. It's a change. It's right now when you got Mark Henry basically doing these matches with the Big Show, and just it's getting boring. And finally, they're getting a guy here who's been pushed to deserve the title, who's pushed to bust his butt throughout the Indies and all that. And it's a real good change. So I think it's a fantastic decision that they've made. Even if it was a last-minute one, it was a good job.
I didn't want to see Henry drop it, but if the reports are what they say, that he went to the doctor and the injury looked much worse than they thought it was going to be, I don't think they had much choice, so I think they made the right call in the end. When Henry comes back, give him the title back. He deserves it, and he did nothing to deserve to lose it either. But from the WWE's perspective, I see where they're coming from. If it looks like Henry's going to be out for more than a month, which it sounds like that's a possibility, you have to have him drop it. I think putting it on Bryan was the right call. Plus, I like what they're doing with Show, where the interview during Raw where they talked about you waited this long and you finally had it and it's over in 90 seconds, it's gone. So I find that interesting too, and I think they can go somewhere with that and really work with that as well.
Two things. One, I could have sworn that Big Show was going to grab Josh Matthews' neck and just pop his head off after the comment he made. I know I would have personally. And two, I kind of disagree about Henry. Like, don't get me wrong, his promo work has been fantastic. He's got the heel persona down. He is totally believable as this wrecking ball of destruction. But his match work really hasn't been that great, and that might be because of the fact that he's been working with the Big Show. I'm not sure if that's a providing factor, but honestly, like, his matches have been so lackluster for me personally.
Henry's moveset, I think one of the big things that has always held Mark Henry down is the fact that his moveset is very, very limited. Punch, 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 world's strongest slam, I win. Now, to WWE's credit, they tailored a heel persona. They finally gave him a gimmick that works with his limited moveset, where I'm just going to beat the crap out of you and go back and go on my way. It's just a shame because Mark Henry's waited so long to get the push that he's finally got. He was owning the push, the one push that they gave him, and now he's out injured.
Sure. Let's talk about Daniel Bryan specifically, though. I mean, if you look back, like in the late '90s, early 2000s, we saw a new trend. We saw smaller wrestlers becoming world championship, like HBK, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, the man who will not be named, and they all turned out to be pretty good champions. You even look at CM Punk and The Miz; they were all pretty quality.
Punk is a tiny little guy.
Yeah,
But Voldemort eventually got taken down by Harry Potter, so we can't really wrong. He who should not be named. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, we all have looked at these guys and thought that they were pretty successful champions. But then you talk to former WWE wrestler Batista, and he says making Daniel Bryan champion was probably one of the worst decisions the WWE has ever made.
Hiring Batista was probably one of the worst decisions they ever made.
How does Batista determine that when the guy has had the title for now 48 hours?
True.
Really?
And John Venti on the Marks Facebook group, he was basically saying the same thing. He said, Bryan is in no way, shape, or form a believable World Heavyweight champion. Do you guys agree with that sentiment?
No.
No.
I think the WWE has done. They've pushed the becoming champion against all odds a few times. They've really perfected it. Daniel Bryan shows he's got the mic skills and the in-ring work to really run with it. I give less than a shit about what Batista says. Like I said, hiring Batista was one of the worst decisions the WWE ever made. Batista is desperately trying to get back into pro wrestling, and he's willing to, and because he can't, he's just throwing shit where he can.
Batista, where does he get off on this? I mean, this is a guy who botches his own entrance on a weekly basis. And he's the one trying to tell WWE what is a mistake or not? That's retarded. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, Bryan's a small guy. He definitely doesn't have the big, muscular Vince McMahon's approval figure that, Vince McMahon builds up in those regards. But like you were talking about before, I mean, you had HBK, Mysterio, Eddie. These guys were not big, but they were believable figures, and not right away, but they proved week in and week out that they were dependable champions. Daniel Bryan has done amazing mic work in the past couple months. He's really picked up his game in that department, and his moveset has always been entertaining. So if anybody in the IWC says that Daniel Bryan is not a credible World Heavyweight Champion, they can suck my dick. That's retarded.
You're right on the mark. I mean, with Daniel Bryan, it's like somebody took the wrestling knowledge and the brain of JR and they put it in the body of somebody who can actually wrestle. I mean,
that was awesome. That's great.
Real quickly, we asked this question on Facebook. I'm sorry, and it was also asked by some of our listeners. They wanted to know how long we thought Daniel Bryan was going to hold this title. Former WWE writer Seth Mates actually chimed in as well, not on our Facebook, but just in general. And he said between Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble, there is usually a span where Vince will put in people as main event that he's just testing. We look at Foley from 1999, Jericho in 2001, Evolution, Edge in 2006, Jeff Hardy in 2008, Sheamus 2009, Miz 2010, and now Daniel Bryan. What you might notice is that a lot of those people seem to be set back right around the time of the Royal Rumble. But so his statement is that most likely Royal Rumble, Daniel Bryan will lose the title, and that will be it for him for a while. But at the same time, if you look at the track record of those names that I just listed, they all had very good careers in the WWE. So even though this might be the trend where they win now, they lose at the Royal Rumble, Daniel Bryan has, if he follows history, he could do very well.
I think if Henry comes back, he drops it. I think if he doesn't, he keeps it past Rumble.
See, I think that Bryan's title win was not a shit we need filler. It was, okay, we're just moving up the timeline from WrestleMania to now. I think if Henry comes back in time for WrestleMania, they will have Henry versus Bryan, but I think Bryan's going to retain.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. I don't think Henry needs a title back right now.
No,
I think Henry's defined himself as a good enough heel that he can go wreck face for a while, just running roughshod and building the Hall of Pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't need a title to build the Hall of Pain. Hall of Pain builds itself.
Damn right.
And maybe he'll follow Kane's lead and take John Cena on and keep him in the mid-card for a while.
Hey, that'd be cool.
All right, quick hits.
Quick hits.
The first question. There's a new John Cena shirt out, or to be more specific, an anti-Cena shirt. Fans in attendance during Raw shows said that they saw and were able to purchase a shirt that read, Cena Sucks. You can even pre-order it now on WWE.com. Obviously, the WWE is trying to capitalize on the recent push in the market. But, as Cena suggests, do you think this is wrong and a disrespect to Cena? Kevin?
Yes, I do. The guy is company all the way. He's moved himself back. And look, the reason that he's not likable is because he was put in the main event and they shoved down our throats. We all realize that. But I think Vince didn't see any choice for a while. I don't like this at all. And I think this is the wrong way to go for a guy who does a whole lot outside of the WWE. I don't like it. I think this is not cool.
Rob?
I'm kind of with Kevin here. I mean, Cena has really been pro WWE. As a matter of fact, the only reason he's got the stupid fucking super face gimmick that he's got now is because WWE told him to take it. He does a lot of work outside. All that is true to a point. But at the end of the day, the WWE is trying to make money, and the WWE is obviously seeing an opportunity to push the two Cena factions against each other.
Joe?
No, I think it is somewhat disrespectful to Cena. But I mean, if you're a company guy and this is the way the storyline they're gonna push, that maybe like say Cena's going to be so pissed off and everybody's turning on Cena, so fuck you guys. I got a PhD in thugonomics. Then cool, embrace it, go for it. It's just fucking t-shirt sales.
Scott?
Honestly, it's just t-shirt sales. I mean, that's pretty much all that's been said already. This is basically WWE's way of accepting the fact that Cena is now being booed. So instead of people selling John Cena shirts, now they're selling John Cena Sucks t-shirts. And we still make money! Yay!
I agree with what you guys are saying. One thing to note, and this is something else that Cena said, he said that you would never see them do this to The Rock. And I think that's a good point. With how they're building WrestleMania, they wouldn't do this to The Rock.
Actually, they did do it to The Rock.
Yeah, he went heel.
But did they sell a shirt that said
I don't.
The Rock
I
sucks? This is the
Prime
first time
example.
in my memory that they did an opposite shirt like this, where they were...
For a long time, The Rock was hated. Like no superstar I've ever seen. I don't remember doing Rocky Sucks shirts. So,
But you could
I'm
hear
a
the
little
chants.
bit
They didn't do.
Oh yeah.
They didn't do like
Right.
they were doing with John and muting the you heard the entire Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks, and even after he became The Rock and was credible, when he went and joined the corporation, those chants came back again.
Well, I don't think they're talking about pre-Rocky. I think they're talking about post-Rock.
Garvin, do you want to finish your quick hits?
We're not talking about the topic here. The thing is that we have never seen them capitalize on the opposite before.
Wrong.
Usually, if you don't like The Rock, then you buy Stone Cold shirts. If you don't like Cena, you buy CM Punk shirts. Now, if you don't like Cena, you can get Cena Sucks shirts, and that is kind of odd.
I got one name for you that disproves that. Kurt Angle.
They never sold a Kurt
Yes,
Angle
they
Sucks
did.
shirt.
Yes, they did.
Really?
Yes, they did. Look it up.
All right.
Going to Google image search now, bitch.
We will make a note to come
They
back
had
to this.
they had Kurt Angle shirts with the back that said "You suck" because that was what they were chanting every time he came out.
You know what? You're right.
Let's move on to the next quick hit. I don't know if you guys know what a quick hit is, but anyways, these are your current champions: CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Cody Rhodes, Zack Ryder, Beth Phoenix, Kofi, and Evan. CM Punk posted a picture of all the champions together on Twitter and said, "If you can't get behind this, then you will be left behind." There's no Cena, no Orton, no veteran. This is the first time that we've seen across the board this type of champion line. I think Punk said, in July, that he was going to be the face of change. Is this the beginning of that change? And do you think WWE is making a good move in allowing it? Rob?
Yeah, I think this is a good move. I think it's definitely good for the WWE to introduce a little bit of change and start pushing their younger guys and other talent and see what they can do with the spotlight. So, all in all, I think it works pretty well.
Kevin?
Do I think it's a good idea? Absolutely. It's a good thing to get these new guys really going, really have some new blood in the title picture, so I absolutely think it's a good idea. Do I think it's because of CM Punk? I don't know, partially. A guy that's become as popular as he is probably going to have a voice and who has things happen. He was a big-time supporter of Ryder, so possibly, but absolutely this is the right move, and absolutely they should be pushing these guys.
Absolutely. I completely agree across the board, and the bottom line is this is what people has been wanting for a long time, for new faces, to see WWE build new people just like they did in the Attitude Era, and this is exactly it, and they got the right guys to do it, so I think it's positive across the board.
Completely. This is awesome. This is like the next generation. Hopefully it's going to be better. They're getting rid of a lot of those veteran guys who propelled them for the last 10 years, and they're doing something well, and everyone's under 32? So, yeah, youth movement.
Yeah, as Bryan Shares on the Marks Facebook group said, he said, Ryder wins the U.S. title, Bryan wins the world title, Punk retains, and Cena's nowhere in sight. If you complain, you are an asshole.
Agreed.
I think that says what needs to be said. All right, let's move on to the undercard. These are the news that we didn't have full time for. No injuries to report for TLC. However, Beth Phoenix and Alberto Del Rio were both injured on Raw. ADR possibly injured his shoulder or his groin, depending on what report you read. Beth Phoenix, as we talked about before, she got drilled in the face by Alicia Fox with botch. She had like a golf ball-sized welt on her face, but neither are expected to miss any time.
I just want to say that confusing Alberto Del Rio's shoulder and his groin.
Yeah, that's like two opposite ends of the body there, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Same thing.
Oy, mi cajonas.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and but oh well. What are you gonna do? Speaking of injuries, apparently the WWE is running that Kevin Nash injury, where he could be out 6 weeks. Well, apparently what is really happening is he is retiring. This was his last match. What he posted on Twitter was basically thanking Paul, Triple H, for ending the career with him. So kind of strange. Who knows if this is real, if he really is going to retire. Definitely a good way to go out. I thought, despite all of our harsh statements about the match, it was surprising that he could stand, he could move without getting injured. It was an okay match. Not great, but it was an okay storytelling match, it is. We've seen some indie guys getting big pushes as of late. Obviously CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. Well, the next crop includes Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, who have they're currently on the road for Raw, and both are getting rave reviews. And it's most likely that we're going to see them on Superstars in the next few months. There is one name that we have talked about previously, and that's Chris Hero, and he will not be showing up. The WWE rescinded their contract offered him because he tested high for testosterone, which could be anything. It could be steroids. It could be him working out harder than he normally would. But anyways, he's not going to be at the WWE anytime soon. I believe this could be his third try to get them, so who knows. We are aware that TNA has created a new promotion in India. Why they went to India, I don't know. And also why they would take a different brand. They didn't even take the TNA brand name. They started a new promotion called Ring Ka King, which I guess means King of the Ring in Indian. Don't quote me on that. I'm just reading the internet reports, obviously. But Matt Morgan, Mickey James, they represented. Jeff Jarrett is over there, as well as Chavo, Harry Smith, Chris Masters, and Daivari. So not big names, but decently known names. So who knows? We will not cover it because it's not in the U.S., it's in India. But something to keep our eyes on. Also, just to follow up to something that we had talked about last week, when we were throwing out guesses of who was attached to the January 2nd, 2012 videos, obviously there was names thrown around like Chris Jericho, Undertaker. That's what you're hearing from everyone. One name that I threw out was Skip Sheffield, which everyone laughed at. But he put out a very cryptic tweet that basically ended with him saying, "It begins," which is the exact phrase that they were using in the first video. So could this be him coming out and saying that he is the guy behind the video? Who knows? But his message has since been deleted. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that possibly we could see a new face in this role instead of?
If we're gonna see him doing this Terminator gimmick that people say's got, no, I don't want to see it.
This is Shockmaster 2.0 is what this is. Really.
If I put out a tweet saying that I'm the guy that the 1, 2, 12 videos are referring to, does that make it true?
No,
I don't know, but it might.
Only if you delete it afterwards and you use some cryptic language. That's all.
Okay.
That's all, I guess.
I'll
I mean,
keep
you already
that in mind.
failed us. You already failed us by not doing that run-in on the TNA pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I tried, man. I couldn't get a flight last minute.
Security caught me at the last minute.
God damn it, Rob.
Early in the show, we talked about Samoa Joe, how it was good to see him actually doing something quality. Previously, we had talked about how we wanted to see something done differently with Samoa Joe and how he's just underused and not used correctly. So what does Samoa Joe actually think about his current role in TNA? During an interview this week, he said, quote, It's always rough not being in the world title picture, but at the same time, right now, we are finding new talent and establishing new characters. TNA gives me the opportunity to work with tremendous young talent. Playing a part in developing young talent is rewarding. The relationship between me and TNA has always been great, and as long as I get the opportunity to wrestle great people, then I have the greatest job in the world. Can we believe that he's truly happy with his role in TNA?
He's playing nice for some reason. That's the only thing I can. Something is going on. He's trying to play nice so that he can get maybe a better role as something comes down the pipe. But come on, really, is he happy? I can't imagine, unless he's busting ass on house shows,
Or unless he's changing his gimmick, because I mean, he pretty much lives his gimmick, which is a pissed off fucking Samoan. I mean, I'm interested about this. It's interesting to see him playing so nice.
So
I have to see what's going on.
He's changing his gimmick to the slightly pleasant pissed off Samoan.
Apparently, yeah.
No, now he's going from pissed off to PR.
PR.
He's the PR Samoan. Next thing you know, he's going to be called Kerwin White.
Oh, nice. Good
All right.
reference.
Time for win-fail. Joe, what's your win?
My win, is it any surprise, Zack Ryder winning the U.S. title?
No, really?
I never saw that coming.
We only people here only gave you shit for that for like what months before Zack Ryder finally started getting some Raw time.
You know, I got a lot of shit for that, but you know what? I wrote it back in that article I did a while ago that I saw a lot of promise in the guy, and look what's happening.
So now
what's happening.
So now we just need Ezekiel Jackson to pick it up, and then you'll be perfect.
Yeah.
There you go. My win actually is to Daniel Bryan. I'm really glad that he is the current title holder right now. I mean, the guy's just a fantastic wrestler. His mic work has been fantastic. It's about damn time. So that's my win.
For my win, I got to go with CM Punk retaining. I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm a huge CM Punk mark. So hey,
My win was Kane's entrance on Raw. That explosion just was freaking awesome. I was like, damn, I'm so glad he's back.
My win of the week was the basic handling of the new champions. The beginning of Raw, the end of Raw, how it seemed like the three face non-stablemates were basically partnered up in some fashion. Like they were not only looking at the individual goals that they have achieved, but it seemed like they were also happy with what direction that now the company is going into, which was it's kind of strange. It's the first time I can remember any three champions partnering like this
Just
that weren't
randomly
in a
like
stable
that.
and
Yeah.
weren't a heel faction. You normally see the heels get together and basically gloat about being champions. You never see the faces doing that, so I thought it was kind of strange. And good. I liked it a lot. So let's go with fails. Kevin.
My fail is the continual matching of Sheamus and Jinder Mahal. This doesn't make any sense, and why? Put Sheamus up against somebody better. Even anything's better than Jinder Mahal right now. Come on.
Scott, what's your fail of the week?
My fail is wasting Cody Rhodes' time on Booker T. He had so much momentum going into that. And it just, why? Why are they wasting him on Booker T when he could be getting elevated into the main event? I mean, this kid is dynamite right now.
Joe?
I think I'm going to say Ted DiBiase's seemingly retarded push. Like, I get he's got these fans and he hangs out with his fans in between shows and before shows and he's going to fight Heath Slater. It's like Santino Marella right here. Everybody for some reason loves Ted DiBiase and he beats the jobbers. It's like Kevin Nash beating Santino Marella. As soon as you saw Santino, you know Santino was losing. You see Heath Slater, you know Heath Slater's losing. One of these two guys needs an actual push. If you're going to do it with Ted DiBiase, give him some new music. If it's going to be Heath Slater, do anything because anything can make this kid stand out if you let him do something.
Yeah, there's definitely a contradiction with his music because his music is I'm made of money and he's like talking down to the people who don't have money, which is
Like,
the
come
fans.
from money.
Yet he's friendly with the fans. It doesn't make sense. He does need new music to actually fulfill this new character. Rob, your fail.
My fail of the week is Jeff Hardy being thrown right back into the title match, and I'll tell you why. It's not that I have anything against the guy personally. I mean, my personal feelings against Jeff Hardy do not factor into this at all. TNA's got the great storyline, him coming back from personal problems and everything and working that up. But if you want to use that storyline, fucking push that storyline. When Kurt Angle came back a year or two ago, he said, "Hey, I don't want to be ranked in one of the top 10. I'm gonna go and work my way up." Jeff Hardy should be doing the same thing. Put Jeff Hardy in the X division for a little bit. Have him work his way up back through the company before you give him the push for the World Heavyweight title. And I would be much, much more excited to see it. And I think a lot of other people would be more excited for it too.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would be a much more believable storyline and something that we could relate with if he worked from the bottom up. For them to throw him directly into the main event, it almost seems like they don't trust him to go a long time without being in the main event. They're trying to take advantage of
What they can get.
Yeah, like they're trying to use up what he can offer now before it's wasted again because of another conviction. So, okay, my fail of the week once again goes to the IWC. This time, though, it's because, let's talk about who the IWC, and this includes us at times, who we have pushed over the last 4 months. Zack Ryder, Daniel Bryan, Robert Roode, CM Punk. We wanted to see them in the spotlight with titles, and now that they have those titles, now that they have those spotlights, the IWC seemingly hates them. They're saying CM Punk is lame, boring, and nothing but a corporate pushover. Daniel Bryan doesn't deserve to be the World Heavyweight Champion. He's not believable. Zack Ryder is too green and shouldn't be on my TV. Robert Roode is boring. I mean, how can you be credible news source like a dirt sheet or, well, not, I guess we can't say dirt sheet's credible, but, the blogs, the YouTube channels, the other podcasts, how can they, be seen as a credible source when there's this obvious contradiction like this? You back these people for so long, and as soon as they get what they want, as soon as TNA and the WWE listens to their fans, that's when the IWC decides they're going to turn and bitch about something else completely different. So it's disappointing. But that's the internet.
I think the IWC just needs some candy bars. Or ice cream bars, I'm sorry. Ice cream bars.
Yeah, but as soon as they get that, then they're going to complain about it.
They're not sweet enough. There should have been chocolate. I want a Neapolitan. It sounds like my 4-year-old son.
And see, I think this is what Bischoff was referring. I know we gave him a lot of shit on this podcast for it when he said it, but I think this is what Bischoff and a lot of TNA wrestlers mean when they bitch about the IWC, just the 10%. I mean, they're talking about, this group of people who, no matter what they do, are going to bitch, just for the sake of bitching.
Okay, this week's question of the week, we're going to be posting on Facebook, so make sure to get involved in that. If you look at the trends of ratings over the last 2 months, say, we've seen that both the WWE and TNA's ratings have slipped. At the same time, they've been pushing this whole idea of trending on Twitter. They are looking directly to the fans for reactions at the time. Knowing that the fans have been pushing, say, CM Punk, Zack Ryder, Daniel Bryan, Robert Roode, IWC has been pushing these 4 guys, and it's obvious that the WWE and TNA has answered those requests. Do you think it's a bad move for those companies, both the WWE and TNA, to follow the Twitter reactions and the general public's voice over ratings? So we'll post that on Facebook. That's a long-winded question. Sorry. Okay, let's close off. As always, you can find this episode as well as our entire archive at ftwpodcast.com. And just in case you want to share the experience with others, you can join us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twrnetwork.com. You can chat with us and the rest of the listeners of TWR. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com, FTW Podcast, twitter.com, FTW Podcast, youtube.com, the FTW Podcast. That's the only one that's different. We've been posting videos up there pretty much every other day, I think, is the routine. It's basically every show we post a recap. We're also posting full podcasts up there, so make sure you get on and comment. You can leave a voicemail at 313-444-FTW4. That's 313-444-3894. We also have iOS and Android apps. And please rate us on iTunes. We want to hear what you guys think, so you can tell us right there.
Yeah!
And that's it for everyone here at the FTW Podcast. Thank you, and have a good night.
See ya. Peace.
Peace out, my lippers.